Right, we are back in with another one. And today's episode, genetics versus just working hard. So, Jeff, I know obviously you've got a pretty wide, diverse client base. How much of it do you think... wide body. How much of it do you think, in terms of the results that people get, is based on genetics, and how much is the hard work that they do or don't do?
Oh, it's like the question of all questions. So I always like to think, I love the debate of nature versus nurture, right? And I just in general, like I studied psychology at A level, believe it or not. Maybe that's what got me wanted me to get down the rabbit hole of coaching. I wanted to be a therapist at one point. But the nature versus nurture argument fascinates me because it once again becomes, notice how people will turn around and they'll go, oh, my kids are just as stubborn as me, or my kids are whatever. Oh, my kids have got this, like whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, cool, but have you just taught them to do that? Like, was that actually passed down genetically, or was it just learned behavior? So let's be real, genetics influence bodybuilding to, like, if we look at I always love using bodybuilding as a benchmark, because you can kind of sit there and go, it's like when clients go, I love it when they go, I don't want to be a bodybuilder, and I'm like, yeah, but you can learn a lot of lessons from bodybuilders, because you want to be more muscular and you want to be leaner, and so who does that better than anyone else? Bodybuilders, right? So can anyone make it to IFBB Pro?
Nope.
No. Can anyone make it to the NBA? Nope.
I fucking couldn't.
There you go, right? So could anyone be a jockey? No, right? There's certain things in this world where you have to just sit here and go, the IFBB pros. My favourite thing, I say this to people whenever people say this, I'm like, go and Google any IFBB pro and put age 18 or age 16. Just literally go Ronnie Coleman, age 18. It's just anyone. Dorian Yates, age. They are jacked. They literally look like someone who's been running gear for 10 years, but better. Do you know what I mean? They were already like the top of the flipping. And so you have to appreciate that the genetically gifted are going to be the ones that take it to the top of the game. So genetics is one of those things that people blame. But what I don't like is, I might not make it to IFBB Pro. I don't particularly want to, but at the same time, it's a case of like, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to give my physique the best chance that I can.
Yeah.
And how am I going to do that? Via graft. So it always comes down, I always sit here now and I go, it's a weird argument when people just turn around and go, my genetics are shit, that's it, I'm doomed. My counter argument would always be, all right, you might not be genetically gifted, but can you not at least show up and give it 100% and give it your best shot?
I also think that you actually don't know how good or bad your genetics are until you've actually tried. Because, I mean, I've had clients that I look at and I think, fucking hell, this is not going to be a... And then I'm like, oh, they're responding way better than I thought they were going to. Oh, okay, so the things that they said that they were doing before when they weren't coaching with me, they probably just weren't actually doing them, or they weren't doing them that well.
100%. And then there's, once again, we go to nature nurture, right? I sit here now and go... my mum is athletic. She's always been. She plays tennis still now in her 70s, right? She's got vascular arm. You know, some of the things that I sit in now, I've always had very vascular forearms, for example. Like my mum's got vascular forearm. My mum, but then you can sit here and go, but did she just instill, like, my kids now are extremely active. Like when I'm doing my steps and stuff around, when I'm topping up steps in the house or in the garden in the evening, they come out and they run up and down the garden with me. Like they're also, it's once again, it's learned behavior, because you'll sit here now and you can look at, I don't know, overweight kids, obese kids, for example, and then you go, oh, is it genetic? Is it this? And you look at obese parents and you just go, well, once again, you sit there and go, what's the dietary habits in that house? What's the movement habits in that house? It's just, I wish people wouldn't be so quick to just go, I've got shit genetics, because what if you've just come from an inactive family with a poor relationship with food, and you actually are unwillingly, you don't even know, because you've got to appreciate the genetics dependent on the sport, right? We've all known that person that took up bodybuilding, and within all that person, I used to know someone many, many years ago that I used to work with, right? And I you know, when you very confidently ask someone, you don't even go to, do you train? You just ask a training related question, because you're basically like, this person's jacked, he clearly goes to the gym. And I'll never forget, right? I'll never forget, he was like 6'4". He had shoulders, like, he was just built like an absolute tank, right? And I remember, No, and this is the fascinating
What?
thing, because normally, he was white, right? And I remember literally being like, so where do you train? So I asked a sort of question like that, like what gym do you go to? And he was like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't train. And I just remember being like, what? Like, and he was like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't train. I don't go to the gym. And I was like, did you used to go? Like, you surely you've trained at some point.
Right?
And,
Yeah.
like, and I was like, do you play rugby? You know, you're trying to then go, is there some sort of impact sport that has influenced this fucking absolute mountain of a frame? And I thought he was trolling me. I even thought he was just going to, after a minute of this, be like, I'm just fucking with you. Like, I go to... The guy had never trained a day in his life, right? Then you have to sit there, and of course, the way my brain went, I even said it, I was like, dude, you need to go to the gym, because this is just going to be...
What would you look like?
You're going for the IFBB. Like, the guy was 6'4". I've never... he was just an absolute mountain of a man. It's just wide. He just had these huge shoulders, like clearly wide clavicles. He was just built for bodybuilding, or probably strongman or something, where it's just like, if you were to slap 20, 30 kilos of muscle on that frame, Jesus Christ. So he probably had no awareness. And I remember I was friends with him on Facebook eventually, and he'd post pictures with his parents. His dad was a fat bloke. Do you know what I mean? It's his parents were just overweight, and I'm just like, this is just wild. So people will sometimes blame genetics, or they'll go, oh, my genetics are bad, or my genetics are this. You raised an incredible point. It's like, how do you know before you've got stuck into the process? And we've all got those body parts that, you know, you and me have both got a big old set of quads, probably one of our stronger body parts. But is that genetic? Is that... I have got pictures of me when I'm 6, 7 years old. Again, we talk about my mum, you know, childhood pictures, and like, my quads are pretty thick. I actually remember, even when I was playing football, I remember comments when I was like 10 or whatever, people were like, wow, you've got some big legs. So what do you think is going to happen when I start squatting like a lunatic? Of course they're going to fucking blow up. So yeah, I think we've all got... and look at bodybuilding in general. There are bodybuilders that have phenomenal... whatever it may be, do you know what I mean? Lats, super wide lats. They've got the perfect insertions that just create... That's bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is a game of genetics. Who is blessed with the best genetics that then can put the best work rate on top? So, yeah, that's where it gets fascinating.
Yeah. And I think with this as well, it's like, I always look at it and I'm like, a lot of people that say that they don't have genetics, I'm like, is it genetics, or is it you just actually don't have the resilience in your head, and you're actually just quite mentally weak, that you actually you don't know what real graft is. And it's like we said a few episodes ago about the actual just taking accountability and the owning that 100%. You're actually not trying as hard as you think you are.
But that's
this is something that I always say to people as well. I'm like, if you want to see if you have good genetics or not, go and train with someone that has okay genetics, or even someone that has good genetics. Watch how they train, and go and train with them, or emulate exactly how they train for 6 months. If you do not respond relatively similar to them, and you're doing everything right, recovering, eating, sleeping, training, okay, you probably don't have the best genetics. But I can still guarantee, if you do that, you will still make more progress than what you were previously doing.
Yeah, 100%. It's a protective, like most things, it's like a protective mechanism for people to just, exactly like you just said, remove personal accountability and just go, oh, well, my genetics are shit. Because I don't know about you, but I've proved so many of my clients, Asian genetics, the Asians love to moan about their genetics. Like the amount of my Asian clients, you can see him in the background, he's got his kit on. No, he hasn't, that picture there. You can see like Rajiv, do you know what I mean? Like everything against him, if you like, from a genetic point of view. But he's in weapon shape. He's in he's literally single-digit body fat there. He's got to be 6-7% body fat. He's absolutely peeled. Deep insertions, you know what I mean? Deep separation everywhere. And as much as you can sit there and I know I've used him as an example so many times, because I've had some of my Asian clients, they just go, oh, but it's just Asian. We've got the worst genetics. And I'm like, well, even if you have... Here's multiple examples of Rajiv and so many of my Raj and Sim and so many of my clients that I'm like, here they are at sub 10% body fat. So I sit there and I'm like, are you really just going to allow? You know, I know bodybuilders that openly they talk about it. You know, they'll get stage lean and they'll stand on stage and they'll be like, yeah, you know, I was never blessed with the aesthetic genetics, because you know the score. Or I'm sure your favorite bodybuilders, my favorite bodybuilders, I love classic probably a little bit more than I do open. But you look at someone like, you know, even now in a division, but of course like C-Bum or anyone, like you're just looking at genetic
silhouette.
perfection. You're just looking at this silhouette that is just, you can't, it's flawless. You're able to sit here and go, you can't. I'll never forget a few years ago where people gave C-Bum shit for like his arms not being good enough or something, and I'm like, really? Like,
what are you on about?
What are you talking about? People just trying to fight. But if you look at now, I mean, look at in the Open, look at Samson. Like, what the fuck is Samson? Like, he's continuing to just break boundaries where you just see pictures of him and you just see him, like, if you see him in person, where you're just like, what the not everyone can do that. And I would take that one step further and go, not many people can do that. And that's why you get people like him that are at the absolute top of the game.
I mean, I stood next to Andrew Jacked like 2 or 3 years ago when I was at my biggest as well. I think I was like 87 kilos, which 5'5" is not small. I looked like I'd never even stepped foot in the gym.
Yep.
And I'm like, regardless of what I'd done, I could never reach that genetic potential, even if I took fucking 7 grams of gear a week.
Correct. And have you seen the same pictures where they then put professional bodybuilders and they stand them up next to strongmen?
Yeah.
Like when I went to watch strongman. Me and Sarah we were pre-kids, so it must be like, I don't know, 8 years ago. We went to watch Giants live, and so you were literally standing like next to some of these guys, and it was just the same thing again. I just remember just being like, what the fuck? Like, not everyone is getting to world's strongest man. If you're you know, it's you have to have those freak genetics that are just, these are actual giants. There's a reason that show is called Giants Live. It's just superhuman people lifting superhuman amounts of weight. Because again, you go down the route of strength sports. Have you seen some of the freaks in powerlifting?
Ridiculous.
There are 5'4", 5'2" females that weigh 68 kilos that will double, like deadlift or squat double what you and me could. It's outrageous. It's obscene. It's absolutely obscene.
Even like in Olympic lifting as well.
Olympic, another classic example. It's just like that. Does not everyone has the genetics to do these things, but at the same time, it's being able to then sit there and go, why would I let that? Like, if I go, right, I like bodybuilding. Okay, cool. Maybe I haven't got the genetics to be an IFBB pro. Okay, cool. Also, I just won't bother. You just sit here and go, like, you can still train. You can still do everything to the best of your ability. You can still, and that's the thing I don't understand when it comes to, like, I've got, again, go back to the personal accountability. I say this to clients all the time, especially when anyone tells me they're frustrated. I always use this in my coaching. I always say, okay, cool. You've got 2 choices when you're frustrated. You cry about it and you just stay frustrated, and I'm always waiting for the prompt, and I'm like, you could quit. You could just cry and you could quit. I'm like, or what's the correct answer right here? And they're like, I could work harder. I'm like, yeah, it's literally my answer to everything. If something fails and doesn't go your way, work harder. What could you do better? If you're convinced that your genetics are shit, work harder. Like, just use this as fuel to sit there and prove everyone wrong, prove yourself wrong, as opposed to just leaning into the fact you go, oh, I've got shit genetics, so therefore I'm just destined to fail. Fucking work harder.
Yeah, and the fact that the prompt says that the prompt records as a response of I can work harder shows that people don't actually try as hard as they can. Which then leads to the fact that they don't get the results they want because they're actually not trying as hard as they need to get to where they want to get to. And
the beautiful thing then is you can always reflect back and go, what were you saying about genetics? What were you saying about, I've never been lean before, so it must be my genetics. It's like, what if you've just never worked hard enough to get lean enough to see yourself in that condition? And again, I cannot tell you the amount of people that I've worked with that have convinced themselves they've got shit genetics. Jodie, standing behind me in bodybuilding condition there, like 3rd place at her first show, absolutely like built for that division. She's got like that perfect frame for athletic figure and for where she's at now. But it's sitting there now and going, you once upon a time said you had shit genetics. Like, I've had it a million times. I've had the amount of people. I have convinced myself once upon a time that I had shit genetics. And I actually sit here now and I'm like, when I'm lean, I've got a muscular aesthetic frame that's, yes, I've got my weaker parts and the things that I need to bring up, but I haven't got shit genetics. It was just that I just told myself for years and years and years that I had shit genetics. I was like, I've got good quad genetics, but I've got bad arm genetics. Until, what did I spend 2 years or nearly 3 years doing? Focusing on bringing up my arms, training arms harder with a little bit more intensity and actually making them pivot. And what happened? My arms came up. Wow. Like rocket science, you know?
Fuck me.
Yeah. So I suppose the lesson here is don't convince yourself you've got shit genetics before you've put in max effort for long periods of time and refuse to actually accept it as an excuse, plain and simple.
And your genetics are probably better than you think that they are, because most people's are. And I always think of this as well, like your genetics are one of those things that your genetics load the gun, but you and your effort pulls the trigger. So if you pull a trigger and you pull a trigger towards someone, you get great results. If you pull a trigger on yourself, then you killed yourself.
Yeah, 100%. That's in a nutshell. And it goes back to what we were saying about shortcuts. It goes back to what we were saying about perceived effort. Everything is always going to come full circle back to, you know, effort and what you put in, and getting cheesy with the, you know, what you put in is what you get out. I think the thing that people need to get better at doing is just stop that external blame, and work harder. You know, genetics versus graft all day long. Because wouldn't you rather graft and be like, this is the best I can genetically get, than you would just be shit and just be like, well, it's just my genetics.